once you have everything else done, you're going to find things that you've missed. And it's a good way.
Kind of like when you go through your procedure and you're like, oh, they're actually using body percussion. I can add national standard.
How can we show
one? No,
No, two. Yes, two. This is just ordering the format of the lesson, not necessarily a difference.
Has an essential question every day on the board. Every day he has some questions. He's Lincoln? Jim K. And like he has a question every day on the board for every class. And like basically all the lessons that he does throughout the day reflects what that question was like investigating. And like one thing I would like maybe like to see more is that's elementary setting, so it's a little different. But if it was like an older class, a little more reflection. Like analyzing, well, this is actually going back to this question, this is what we've learned. And do you understand how these lessons have applied to that? I think that's really cool.
All right, let's pause for a moment. Do we need more time?
We will always need it.
You can do a whole class on
I know, but do you think we can wrap this up so we have other ways to apply this knowledge together as a larger group? Maybe what we might want to do, let's do 2 or 3 more minutes. Then we'll take and then we'll talk about our ideas as groups to create one as a large group. Does that work?
Yeah.
All right. 3 minutes. Kind of think about all of your main, most important ideas. Go.
I don't know whether this is should be part of the actual basic lesson.
I think right now we are.
I think there has to be a way for the teacher, like as you said, is like aren't the kids understanding this or whatever. I think there needs to be like kind of a way for you to decide. Like if you decide no, they're not understanding what's happening. I think there needs to be some kind of way for you to help. And I think there needs to be something. Yes. To actually be able to.
I think that's another thing with this is you don't necessarily have to like. I think with this you can't necessarily plan out like your entire year in this schedule, like between this week and this week. I think you need to be flexible and more fluid with your unit plan.
Right.
I think in general with this
Which is
model.
like wise guidelines.
Yeah. And I think I agree with you completely on that. And I think maybe a way of going about that is like maybe having another lesson that dives into that specifically. So the thought provoker will have specifically to do with whatever kids were struggling with.
Right.
And say like, okay, so how do we do this? Because I think a lot of the problems that are going to arise within this lesson are going to be like, things they don't know how to do.
Right.
Yes.
Like,
I get through a lesson, you decide they can't do this,
And then open it up. Yeah, it's kind of we're not complete like dictators. We're guides. We're guiding. And then
They can incorporate any of those. Like how does articulation phrases, dynamics and articulation shift the phrase? You can do that through scenes. Any number of things.
Where I'm going with this is that I think using ideas should be before the question.
I think it's the most important thing in the whole thing.
So, which is why I think it should be first.
I first, just because I don't know. You kind of what like you're trying to the question you're trying to answer, and then you have like kind of the ideas.
Yeah, I can see in both ways because like sometimes I think of like the essential question as like the title of the lesson.
Yeah.
So we could do like essential question like music ideas and learning goals, but then it kind of because the learning goals we decided was in what ways is it possible for students to attempt to answer the essential questions. So it makes sense to have that right after the essential questions. You know what I mean? Then it seems kind of weird to have music and be stuck like right between learning goals.
I guess we can put using musical ideas.
All right, 15 seconds.
And I guess that is where I feel that you kind of think of the activities, and then you can have discussions with them.
Yeah, and that can be brought up in the reflection too. Like, well, today we had.
Or like maybe how in the
See
beginning
how
of
we
the
fix that
class
next time.
structure
What went wrong?
so that the students are actually
And like how they figured it out.
All right, and let's find ourselves back at our seats.
I'm not thinking they can't do that. I'm just thinking from, will you be able to
And that's where I feel like it starts where if you start doing that with kindergarten class.
Should we just use that floor?
By the time they were probably going
Sure.
to already programmed
Flooring it
to
up?
always be asking
Floor it
questions.
up, floor it up.
Cool.
Yes.
Yes. We're gonna. No, no, I'm in the little pot thing.
You're in the soup.
No.
You guys don't want to be there.
Pot.
Because that's what the camera's pointing.
It's like me chasing a squirrel.
Okay. How exciting. Look at all of your like active brains going. So, do you feel engaged?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What was the comment you all made when you left your group?
We're teachers now.
What were you before?
We're people.
We're still poor. Skilled humans.
Skilled human beings. Awesome. Alright, that goes in the philosophy statement for sure. So what did you all decide? We can go around to the three groups. What did you all decide was the most important thing of the lesson plan?
I think for us it was more as a reflection, and we've kind of embodied the national standards and the assessment in kind of one, a final reflection at the end of the lesson.
How'd you do that? So it's at the end.
It's at the end. So, should we just go over structure?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, we had kind of as a precursor that if you're going to use this kind of lesson planning, that you have to have 3 things that you're willing to do during the class, which is like have the students participate, like active participation. Be cognizant of if they're comprehending what you're doing, like throughout the time, and really evaluating yourself in the moment and seeing which students are understanding and which ones aren't. And retention, like seeing which.
Basically, these are all ways for teachers to assess. These are assessment tools for the grading portion. Not necessarily for what they're like learning, but more so this is for student grading for what's required by the school. So it's kind of like the pesky, the paperwork and everything that you have to do, but that's as an aside. Evaluate students based on whether or not they're participating, how they're comprehending the stuff that they're doing, and then see how much they retain or what they retain from the lesson. And however, during the lesson, at the end, the assessment is more so going to be a reflection on what we called universal music essentials. Not necessarily national standards, but like having almost like a word chart or with like different concepts, and singing together, if you're playing together as a group, different things out of the national standards, plus some other stuff, like more specific things. And then ultimately saying, and then ultimately saying to the students, okay, well, what did we do today? What did we learn today? And then have them point out things on the chart. And you might end up with things that you originally intended to be in the lesson, or you can end up with other things that you that kids thought they learned that you weren't necessarily intending them to. And so it gives you more room to work with what kids ultimately end up learning. And part B of the reflection is more of a reflection for the teacher themselves at the very end of the lesson, and to say, well, maybe the students didn't understand this concept and this concept very well. How do I teach that later? Or to ask students, well, we had a little bit of trouble, with.
So this goes to what Pat was talking about in your group, which was what was the problem that you?
I was saying that we got all the way to the end, and it said we were talking about what if. So then basically one of the last statements was, we'll see if the students get it, or we'll assess if the teachers are, if the students are understanding or not. And I said, well, we need to have some kind of a safeguard in case they don't. We need to then expand on what we're going to do for either teaching in the next class or.
So it has the flexibility, because if they don't, one of the issues with this is we go through the whole procedures, we go through it's totally teacher directed. And in the end, when we're finished,
if
there's anything wrong, we don't have time, we must move on, because that's what the curriculum
so
tells
then
us.
What we said for that is that when we get to that section, if there's something that we've seen has gone wrong, that we can gear the next essential question toward fixing what had happened, fixing what was wrong in the class.
So to adopt this model, you would have to be more flexible with your units, and you need to have maybe some extra time put aside just in case there are certain things that arise, and if there are any problems, you can go ahead and expand on your current unit, or you can if you need time to delve deeper into certain aspects, different universal music essentials, then